to be introducing Rabbi Menachem, Mendel, and Hindi Hecht. And by way of introduction, can we hear it for the Hecht? Friends, Rabbi Mendy Hecht, who I'm proud to say I'm a chutin and also a dear friend, his father, Avshalom Deber ben Chava, right now needs a very strong Rachashamayim and for Shalema. And normally you would say, why would he come? But his mother said to him, and he himself understood like a good soldier, tonight we're doing Afatzas HaMayonis. This is not going to hurt, to the contrary. And let's all lift our glasses and say L'chaim. That you are being honored tonight, together with your Rebbe's in Hindi, for your support, for your generosity, for opening your homes on a weekly basis to learn and teach Chassidus, for your chayis, for everything the Rebbe holds dear, that this should be a bracha for your dear father, Avshalom Deber ben Chava. And I'm going to say, Mendy, I'm old enough to know this is no doubt that Rebbe is smiling down at what you and your wife are doing tonight against the odds. And this is not the first time that you made the Rebbe smile. We remember you as a child and how often you would get up and the first child to say the 12 psukim in front of the Rebbe. Anybody remember this? Before they would give to 12 kids, I think Mendy did all 12, and the yechi and everything, and it broke out that smile. No doubt the Rebbe is smiling down. And by Chassidim we say when the Rebbe shmechelt, tzamtokas adirib, there should be good news in your family, and nachas, you and your wife together from your family, with harchava, begashmis, beruchnis, please help me to welcome Rabbi Menachem Mendel and Hindi Hecht.
Of course, to start with a very special thank you to all those that made an effort to join this evening. Special thank you, firstly, of course, to my wife, to my mother-in-law, to my uncle, my aunt, my brothers-in-law, sisters-in-law, my brothers that are here. Most importantly, and of course of equal importance, to my dear friends, my neighbors, who I daven with, learn with, live with, in 10901, Montebello, New York. When a Rabbi man approached me and asked me to, in some way, be part of this evening, I was reluctant. My involvement with him is really on two fronts. I was reluctant because I did have the schus in the past to also support Avremi in the financial part of carrying all of the great work and things that HaChasidus L'Kashavas does. This past year has been a tough year, so I have to, full transparency, I don't deserve this. We have to hope, and my reckoning was that in the schus of taking this and perhaps encouraging just one more person support the important work that's done in this maisid would be a schus for all of us and those that need a schus. Rabbi Thiel actually mentioned before about a schus that I had as a child, just to note that, well, my father needs a big refuah and racham and shemayim. He was, tonight we celebrate Yudalas Kislev, which is the Rebbe's anniversary. For those of you that may know, he was the first child that had the schus. Our Rebbe was Sandik. My father's bris was on a Shabbos, and Lyzeda went and asked the Rebbe to be Sandik, and the Rebbe said, I was never Sandik before, and so he went to the Frierdiker Rebbe and asked the Frierdiker Rebbe, Was darf das Sandik tan? And the Frierdiker Rebbe answered him, very simple, what does the Sandik have to do? What would you say? What does the Sandik have to do? And he told him, a Sandik darf stark halten dem Kind. So I believe that that wasn't just on a practical level and on a physical level, but that my father is held for eternity. And in that schus, he will have a refuah shlema, refuah kreva. And I say that because I know that when I told him last week that I did take this, he had in every way intended to be here this evening with my mother. He should have a refuah shlema. My involvement in Likras Shabbos is more of one where, and the honor that's being extended to us this evening reads Lamplighter. Lamplighter is a very profound term, and there's something that comes to mind when you use the term Lamplighter. But before I do that, I think it would be remiss.
Take it out.
It would be remiss not to mention two very important people that are also receiving. First of all, the Minsky family for all of the beautiful work that they have done and continue to do. And then a very, very special person that was very dear to me in my heart, and that was Rebbe Zusha of Shalom. A few weeks before he passed away, I called my friend Zalman, and I said to Zalman, when I heard how severe his illness was, I did not want him to leave this world without knowing that he had a Talmud in Lamplighter, that when you close your eyes and you're 53 or 52 years old and you think back about your childhood, and someone were to tap you on your shoulder and ask you which teacher was the most profound teacher in your memories, the one that comes to mind is the one that cared. And I wanted to know that I felt that, and I felt that his pedagogical techniques and that he used in how to shear was something very, very special. And I went to your home, and I sat with your father, and he cried, and I cried. I hugged him. And it was a very, very, very special moment. Your father was a very, very special person. I don't have to say that, but you should know the simpletons that walk know that. And then a dear friend of mine is also guest of honor, guest speaker. I grew up in Forest Hills, Queens. My father remains the shul there over 50 years ago. The Rebbe placed him in the Sephardic shul. And there was a very unique person of great prestige that lived whose shul was just a few blocks away from ours, and that was the Rosh Yeshiva of Shalom, Rabbi Pekarsky. In fact, the first night of Shvishal, the first night for HaKasidus on Shmini Atzeres, where the world does not do HaKasidus, my father and I have childhood memories of walking to Rabbi Pekarsky in the Chasidus Shtibul. Reb Chaim, am I correct? He's either with the Prava HaKasidus the first night of Shmini Atzeres, and then very often when those of you that look at see the videos of the Rebbe and him sitting behind Fabrengens, very often he would catch a ride with my father back and forth from Queens and so on. I have fond memories of Chaim also, and growing up in yeshiva together and so on. So Chaim, whatever schus they're bestowing upon you, the Eibishter should give you all the brachas in the world, and you should continue to be successful and to use the very bright mind that you have to support the right moistus. In closing, I want to say the following, and this is my involvement. I've gone through a journey in life, and at some point I was a pulpit rabbi. I left that position, and years later, I journeyed and I ended up in Monsey, New York, built a new family, and was obsessed from childhood on in wanting the world to know and understand that when the world speaks about the magnanimity and the greatness of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, the first thing that comes to mind is what? The picture of the Rebbe conquering the world through his shluchim. And that is part and parcel, and in essence, is who our Rebbe was and remains to be. But there was a very, very deep nekuda, and maybe it was because of an answer that I got when I was 13 years old in terms of which yeshiva to learn, that it always gnawed on me that there is an injustice in our world as to the greatness of the amkus of our Rebbe's migavu lebar, mabar legav, how he annexed Torah from every single different angle. And I grew up learning in childhood in the non-Lubavitcher yeshiva. And I somehow, maybe again, a different opportunity will share that, an answer that I got, but I was obsessed by that there is a falsity within the world that when we speak about, and when the Rebbe speaks about kenanas al gabe anak, that we are a generation where the pygmy will go onto the shoulders of the giant and that one more endeavor will bring Mashiach. When it came to the Rebbe's Torah, it was anak al gabe anak. It was a giant on top of a giant. And there was an injustice in the willingness of the world to understand the depth of that. When you talk about Chasidus, and you talk about, I'm not a mashpia, I am a businessman, gives a Dvar Torah on Shabbos, learns with people, because I feel that is part of our Lamplighter. Those of you that are familiar with the Sikha from Tammuz, Tavshin Chav Beis, you have to be a lamplighter, and if you're not, then it's reflective of an imperfection within yourself. Like the Chassid asked the Rebbe Rashab, I don't see the lampposts. And the Rebbe Rashab said to him, that's because you're not a lamplighter. And he says, how do you become a lamplighter? And he says, if you're coarse, you will see coarseness. But if you're refined, you will see the refinement in the next Jew, and you will be able to contribute and to give. So the process of being a lamplighter essentially is not working on the next person and compelling him to be a recipient, is you shining as an example where the light becomes a light. You refine yourself so that the people around you are open and willing to understand the enormity and the greatness of what? Of the Amkus of Chassidus Chabad. When you talk about Chasidus Svarim, when we share all types of Chasidus Svarim in Arbis Medish. But when you talk about the bookshelves from the Alter Rebbe to all the way down to our Rebbe. When I was a child and I grew up in Rabbi Geltz, I'm going to close with this. I'm sorry that I'm taking you. And I grew up in Rabbi Geltz's yeshiva, who was a son-in-law of the Michtav Melio. Rabbi Geltzeler had a yeshiva in Queens, and in that yeshiva there were melandim from all different spectrums of Chasidisha walks of life. And that's, by the way, why I have an affinity and appreciation of the life that we live. My first grade Rebbe was a skverer. The second grade Rebbe was this. And I, as the Lubavitcher in the yeshiva, always had this thing that our Rebbe was the greatest, but not because my father told me that our Rebbe was the greatest, but because the profundity of how we understood one Rebbe to the other, to the next Rebbe, is that nichlal in the recipient, nichlal in the transition from the first Rebbe to the second Rebbe, is the keiches of both the first to the second. And therefore, the Rebbe is the anak on top of the giant, on top of the giant. Avremi man has spent his life in preparing shleilamad ma'achi teifel al davar echad bilvad. And the Rebbe is masber that you take one nekuda and you rework it and you make it muchan as a shulchan aruch where people can hear it and people can understand it. You want more gesundheit, take out a look at the sichas, take out a sichas kodesh, and I don't say this again as a mashpia, I say this as my own life's experience. But we live in an environment where all of this work and the way it's prepared by Avrami, it makes it inexcusable. Where if you live as a lamplighter and if you shine and you go about it humbly, the people around you, the environment that you're in, the people that you do business with, the people that you live with, will always be willing and able and wanting of learning another nekuda and realize and see the depth and the contribution of both limud Chassidus Chabad and the derech of Chassidus Chabad. And for that, I think this evening, Avrami Vubistu, I have to say thank you very much that he gave me the schus to participate in such a beautiful, profound mosid. The Rebbe's brachas on Makuyim Varin. You should continue. Anybody that can support this in any which way, whether it's learning it or, of course, supporting it on a financial level, is doing one of the greatest things in being mayfits Mayana is Chutza. Thank you very, very much.